Computer. All right, hello everyone into the room, and hello to the 4 people or 3 people on Zoom. Let's get started with the continuation of OSINT. In other words, all the things I wanted to say but couldn't because time. So real quick announcements. If you participated in OSU, I have your shirts. They're at my apartment if you want to get them right after this. Otherwise, you can come get them Thursday because I'm going to bring the box on Thursday. Then the merch form, again, we have a merch interest form. If you are interested in merch, it basically just says, do you want merch? What merch would you want? And how much would you be willing to spend on merch? And then again, promoting it again, just so it gets, we're going to do spray paint social at some point. I'm not sure when yet, but probably near the end of the month. All right. So there's the community flag, pro Reddit skills, or Reddit pro skills. Oh no, did I type that in wrong? Uh-oh. Hold up. Did I? Yep, I typed it in wrong. It's pro Reddit skills, not Reddit pro skills, but I'm gonna add both of them anyway. Okay, cool. I added both of those flags, so they should both work now. Give them a shot. Anyway. Hello. All right. So OSINT, again, open source intelligence. Let's skip over the things that I had covered last time. Again, I'm going to go over this slide though, because it's kind of important. OSINT, especially human intelligence, is stalking again. So now that I'm kind of going to give some more advanced techniques, the big thing that I want to say, just don't be a creep. Thank you. Cool. So types of intelligence, systems intelligence is what we're actually going to start with today for real. So real summary of systems intelligence, you're actually, if you're going to try to do a pen test, there's several ways you want to go and do it. Or if you want to attack someone, there's a bunch of ways you can go do it. You can do the super technical method where it's like you find a actual vulnerability in a system. That can be as easy as, oh, there's default credentials on this AD server, and I'm going to go in there and create a domain admin. It could be, there's a 0-day that I know of in like a printer that allows me to dump credentials. But you could also go the other route, which is human intelligence, like you social engineer someone, you phish someone. This is the first route, so it's systems, and it's the first step you're going to take before you actually attack a system. So the biggest way to gather intelligence about a system is to trick that system in, well, not even trick it, just ask the system for that information. Because most of the time, if you're harmlessly asking a system for information, it's not going to trigger any red alarm unless you're doing it a crazy amount. So the methods here that we're going to talk about are port scanning and then information probing, which is kind of an application of port scanning, and then some IRL intelligence. So real quick, port scanning. Port scanning is a way to identify what services are being used by a system that's in use. It's really important to know what ports are important and what ports matter, because if you can figure out like what combination of ports exist, you can draw conclusions about a system. So it depends on where you're attacking. A lot of ports are reserved for like dated and deprecated services. So example, port 376 is like reserved on the official list of like what ports are for like an HP thing from the 1980s or like an Intel thing from the 1980s, which is like really stupid, but whatever. So here's the common ports. 2021 file transfer. I'm not going to list off all of these, but the important thing to notice is that a lot of them will be on together. And if they're on together, you can usually draw conclusions about a system. So for example, if you have 444 open, and then 440 and 445 open, as well as 88, 80, probably 443, and 389 is another big one, chances are that's a domain controller, which is the thing that controls Windows domains, which are basically big systems and networks of lots of different users and computers. So if those ports are on, you can generally draw that conclusion. It's like, oh, okay, this is a domain controller, or oh, okay, Mac OS server, port 740 through 754, like 7 of them are open. Okay, it's probably a Mac OS server. You see port 666 open. It's either Doom Online or an aircraft command and control server. Probably not good if you see port 666 open. Same, and you can draw conclusions from all of these. VNC, where's the important one? 3389. If that's open, RDP, as of right now that I know of, does not have password timeouts, unless it's like a feature that they enable. If RDP is open, you can just hit RDP connection requests right now. So like the whole point is there's implications to all of these. So methods, real quick. Nmap, we've talked about it before, but it's the best port scanning tool. We're going to have a tutorial in the networking meeting. The alternative to Nmap, because sometimes Nmap will go really slow, is a tool called masscan. And then Shodan. Shodan is basically Google, but for network devices. It's really, really cool. I'd recommend checking it out and just screwing around with it. It provides a lot of information about systems. You can just search up a public IP and it'll tell you information about it. And then Aquatone. So Aquatone will look for valid browser readable content, and then it'll display it on an aggregate web page with like screenshots and stuff. I think Aquatone's a little bit too much information, and I think that it's fun. I wrote my own this summer. I'd give it a shot if I were you. It's kind of fun. But basically what you do, you can just take nmap output, and it can be like greppable, or it can be like JSON format out of an nmap request, and you parse it into like a static web page. So then here's the implications of port scanning. So for adversarial port scanning, ports that are open to provide information about a system. If 80.443 and like 80.80 are open, it's probably a website, and you can take a look at that. Take a look at 80, like HTTP, and then take a look at HTTPS and see how they're different. So if it's 53, 445, 3389, et cetera, it's probably a domain controller. Ethical and legal issues are that if you do a bunch of port scanning on a system, it can overwhelm the system, especially if it's not really built for getting hit on a bunch of ports at once. So it can harm system availability, which can get you in a shit ton of trouble. Again, you start to enter a legally, ethically gray area. For example, do not port scan the US government under any conditions. So then, once you have, once you have information about ports, you can gather some more system information by trying to ask about that information. So great example there is crack map exec, or CME. It's actually a really great tool that can do like tons of probing and stuff, but it's also super useful for like getting system information. So there's like so many things that you can use. Technically, you can even just send like SMB requests to get like version information. So Shodan can also do this. It'll try and figure out what the operating system is. It's really case by case stuff. So it's usually like Google, okay, I have this system, how can I get information about it? And look at like what's open, look at what's available before you attack it. I can make probably at some point more slides on how to do this first step. And then some more methods. Nmap can also help with this. Nmap has scripting that can do something called banner grabbing, which is basically like grabbing all of this information. And again, it just depends on what's being offered. And then lastly, for system intelligence, there's IRL intelligence. So usually if you're at this step, you're beyond needing to do OSINT. You can just like plug in a rubber ducky or something like that and get going. But if you're under like supervised physical access, so like you're walking through somewhere, you're taking a tour somewhere, and you're just looking around, look around for Post-it notes with passwords, look around for all that type of stuff. People don't have good OPSEC. That's, abuse the fact that people don't have good OPSEC. So it's also useful if you've got like photos too. Cool. Any questions about systems intelligence? port scanning, the like. We don't have a ton of challenges for that yet. Right now it's a lot of human intelligence. But it's something to be aware of. It's something that exists. Any questions? Cool. So network intelligence. I already did the summary. So there's a few methods to do networking intelligence. Depending on the context, you can kind of just ask. So social engineering is a really valid vector to get information about a network. Just stuff like, hey, how you doing? Where is like the update server, or how does information flow? And you gotta phrase it correctly. But if you're doing like an internal pen test, so like you're pen testing yourself, or someone's giving you permission to do a pen test, you can usually just like ask an IT person, and they'll tell you like, here's how information flows from here to here to here. Here's how the community, here's how everything talks with each other. What you want to know is where things are coming into the network, where things are moving within the network, and then where things are moving out of the network. So yeah, Shodan again is sometimes great for this, depending on, Shodan usually does public IP stuff. So if it's public, then you can do it. But if it's private, then we're entering like a different kind of thing. And then another thing you can do, this is really starting to encroach on like not OSINT anymore, but you can set up hub devices and like spoof information and try and get information from those spoofing devices, spoofed devices. So then this goes back to OSINT, enumeration. NS lookup is your friend for Windows things. So if you can get the name of like a PC, so you're looking at a network and you're trying to do reconnaissance in a network, and you find the name of a PC, and it's like Windows application, it's the app server 1. And you've got this app server computer and it says 1 at the end, chances are there's an app server 2 or an app server 3 or an app server 4. And you can take those and run them through this thing called NS lookup, which basically hits the domain controller with, hey, it's basically DNS, but for like specific computers on a local Windows network. It's neat, it's cool. You can, so like given a list of names of the computers, so say you get like LDAP domain dump. So you dump the entire Active Directory and you have just a list of computers, but you don't have the IP list. You can take those computer names and just hit NS lookup with every single one of them, and you'll have an IP list right away. So then you can take, yeah, so again, enumeration is basically just like taking the name of one thing and guessing the others. So like if there's email format, first name dot last name, you can kind of figure out any arbitrary person, what their email format is. And then LDAP abuse, it's a great protocol, abuse it because it's very insecure. It used to be great. We're going to cover this during the pen testing meeting, which will probably be next semester. Cool. So then organizational intelligence, we're going to talk about this a little bit more. What are they actually doing? So we covered this one. Organization intel, information gathering. Abuse public sources of information until you can't anymore. Zoom info and yellow pages are generally public, and I don't know how they're getting the information they get. But they get it. Most of the time you just need an account to like make a burner account. Sometimes you have to pay, don't pay, that's a waste of money. LinkedIn, boomer companies love LinkedIn so much. So if you need to do OSINT like a boomer company or just like a boomer in general, LinkedIn's your place to go. Especially if they're like, if they like are like a C-suite executive and like have someone to do all that for them, all the information will be there, and it's usually more than they're like aware of. This quickly turns into human intelligence though, because it's, oh, we've got this organization, who's the IT guys, who's all of that, and then it turns into, okay, let's learn about the IT guy. So then public company websites can expose things like phone numbers, emails, etc. That's, again, but that's encroaching on human intelligence. And then policy information. So if the service is using a public account system, the password policy is often the same one that they use on the backend. It's like equally strong, if not like marginally stronger. So if like a website policy, password policy, or like 2FA, probably what they're doing on the backend as well. Also here, there should be notes about like legal history. So like Google a company, see how they sue people, see if they sue people, like what their responses are to hackers or bug bounties. The example that I like to use is Oracle. You don't want to fuck with Oracle because they're just not nice about it. But yeah, just general policy information about how companies like operate is good to know. And then human intelligence is the one that we're actually going to cover more in depth. This is the easiest thing to learn. You basically want to create a map of a person and everything from media to in real life addresses. What you want to do here is most people, again, so there's tons of different methods and there's too many to put just on a summary page. It's stalking, but purposeful and less creepy. So we covered this information language, we covered it, general OSINT methods, cool. Most people have two identities online. I covered that. Human networks, yeah, I covered it. Okay, so media OSINT. This is like when we start getting OSINT challenging things. The big ones I look at are TinEye, Yandex, and Google image search for images. Another big thing you can do is a keyword searcher. If you look at the image, you look at the information in the image and just say like, okay, there's a keyword here. Just start spamming keywords into Google. There's this thing Google dorking, which is basically like abusing keywords in a specific way, like using Google's advanced search in a specific way that it'll limit your searches from like 20 trillion answers to like 2 or 3. Another thing is cropping. So sometimes if the full image isn't going to work, this usually only works with Google images though, because TinEye does exact matches or like very, very similar matches. I think it's hacking. So you take the image and it figures out if it's like a near identical or identical match. And then Google uses like actual image visualization. So the example here is we've got TinEye. My camera turned off, didn't it? Whoops. All right. So we've got TinEye, which we took this image of Big Bird from like 19 something saying like go to your immunization clinic. That was in the news. That was nuts. The Big Bird just got vaccinated or something like that. People are now shitting on him for like promoting conspiracy theories. But yeah, so as you can see here, old image of Big Bird didn't work on TinEye, but if you threw it into Google Images, it's similar. I think there's an aggregate website where you can just throw in an image and it'll give you links for all of those things. So I'd try 2 or 3 things before you give up on finding a raw image. And then image to location. This is an important one. Look for landmarks, and a landmark is not necessarily like a big famous building. If you see a business logo, if you see a like particularly unique building shape, you can combine that with context. So Dylan's radio tower challenge is a really great example of this. I don't know if it's up anymore or like Dylan's challenge is up anymore, but it was like a really, really neat challenge. The context is important. So like limit your search space as much as possible. Great icky example of this because it was some alt-right trolls, but it's a great example, unfortunately, is the He Will Not Divide Us 2. It's the Shia LaBeouf story by Internet Historian, where Shia LaBeouf like put up like a flag in his room, or it was like a flag facing the sky, and people figured out by like it was first the airplane trails, and then it was they saw the stars in the sky, and like they saw the sunset, figure out where the camera was facing. There's a ton of different ways to do this, way more than I have time for. And then time is a huge factor here. You can kind of figure out, you can usually, if you keep trying things, eventually given enough time, you're going to find something that works. So think out of the box. Great way to practice this is the Guess or Zero Movement Challenge, where you are put down in Street View and you aren't able to move or look or any of those things, and you just need to figure out like where you are. Try to get good at that. I didn't talk about this one because this is like I'm pretty good at it, but I didn't really include that much information on these slides. If you have questions about it, feel free to ask. Also, feel free to ask about any of this stuff. It's like something that I'm good at and enjoy to do. But yeah, so especially with landmarks, it's really interesting because you can, like from a single business, you can limit the search space to like a few cities, which is always cool. I've done that a few times. And then, you know, Street View is your friend, especially for location photos. Yeah. Then profile OSINT. This is when it starts to get sussy. You can look for like descriptions and stuff, but then reset, you can reset some, you can like attempt to do a password reset, and more often than not, it'll give you a lot of information. Like it'll say like, oh, we're gonna send an email to like Thomas at gmail.com. And like that's like if you have like a suspicion for an email and you try and reset someone's password and it says like most of that email information, your email's it's probably right. But again, you're really encroaching on like, hey, this is not appropriate and you could get in trouble. But yeah, look for a description, look for who they're following, look for who's following them with the profile. Profile pictures are another huge one. You can take them and throw them into like a reverse image search engine. This is secure OSINT methods. Wow, I hate my former self. Don't get caught. The actual thing I was going to put on here was use VPNs and private browsing. Maltego has a feature where it will give you the URL of an image, but it won't actually go to that website just in case there's someone doing like IP grabbing. Just VPNs and proxies are a good way to gather information without necessarily giving yourself away as the person who's doing it, because if like a website, if you're doing OSINT on a website and then eventually they see like, oh, there were 20 calls for different images from like 137.420.69.700,000. That's a real IP. They might be suspicious about that. So, and then also we cover this, just detection, don't make noise, read things, don't write things. Don't reply to a comment asking about information about someone. Then Maltego, we covered it. Let's get to the fun stuff. Next meetings, real quick. Thursday's meeting is going to be networking, so fundamentals of communication between hosts. We still need people to help run that and make challenges for it if you're interested. So that's going to be TCP, UDP. We're going to kind of go over a brief overview of the OSI stack, and then we're going to do some common vulnerabilities and attacks. And then the weekend seminar is technically open right now. So if you want to run a meeting, you can run a meeting. Right now, the default, if no one does anything from last year that we've run, which is just wireless hacking. And if you want to present, let us know by Thursday. So it's open. You get the run a meeting flag, which is like 2,000. So yeah. Thank you very much. Blah 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 blah. Okay, now here's the like super specific stuff that can help you with the challenges that exist. Reddit, we'll start with Reddit, I guess. Reddit's a semi-anonymous website. So you can have a public profile, you can also have a private profile. It is that by design. So with something like Facebook or LinkedIn, you can technically make anonymized profiles, but you're not supposed to. It's not by design. You're abusing the design factor there. With Reddit, you just have a username. So some accounts are public. So like Obama, or I don't remember who gave me, I think he was like a U of I YouTuber at some point, but like he had a public YouTube or public Reddit account and everyone knew who he was. Some people will de-anonymize themselves accidentally. I don't know who Github is anymore. Oh wait, no, it was someone in SIGPwny, and I think I called them out in the meeting. It was funny, but not appropriate. And then myself, I use the same like tag on most places, so you can figure out what my Reddit account is. Everyone gets sloppy at some point and like signs in with their alt or signs in with something that's not like they shouldn't have, and like replies to a comment from their other account. And Reddit, again, you can usually link someone to like another account. So with Reddit, there are several unarchiving websites, and like people that like don't want any Reddit comment to go away, even if it's inappropriate, So like if you've ever posted something on Reddit and then deleted it, it's still there somewhere. Even if like a bot deleted it, it's still there somewhere because a bunch of archivists are like, we want everything on the internet to be permanent. Yeah, so then Reddit's got some great search techniques. You can do Boolean operators, so like or and and. I think you can even do XOR, which is pretty neat. Self-text, so that's like the actual text of the message, author. Comments are not included when you search on Reddit, which is an interesting thing to note and might be valuable for challenges. And believe it or not, you can have profiles and like profile descriptions and stuff on Reddit, which is neat and definitely useful. It's not, but it exists. So Twitter bios, they often will give out a lot of information that you may need. So like people can attach their locations, their personal websites, and also just like what schools they go to. So if it's someone who's like not really suspecting of stuff, they might like, this also happens on like Instagram. So it's like, oh, I go to this school and I'm graduating in this year. And I went to this school and I'm graduating in this year. A lot of security questions are like, where did you go to high school? So, that applies there. Twitter has a really advanced search mechanism. I've learned how to abuse it. Near versus within, that is like location-based stuff. You can start to like search tweets based on location. There's actually like a website where you can search tweets based on specific latitude and longitude, which is pretty cool, not gonna lie. Since until before, it's all the same stuff for like a lot of other places for search methods, like since this date, until this date, before that date. You can check who people are following them. The API is really pog. I just got access to it, but don't abuse it because they'll get angry at you. But like you can do like if it's like 500,000, like figure out who's following who, like a day or something like that. It's nuts. And then mentions, always just check all the tabs. Mentions, media, lists is huge. What they're liking, image tags, so if they've ever been tagged in something. And then check the sent applications, like if it's being sent by TweetDeck or like some special application, you can see if they've had that in the past. They've used like weird things, or if there's been a breach in that application in the past. We're going to talk about breaches too. YouTube doesn't allow you to search through comments, which makes finding information from comments difficult. But there's a new thing that's exclusive to mobile that I discovered since I made this slide. It's pretty cool. If you click on someone's profile while you're on a page and they've made a comment, you can see the 3 or 4 most recent comments they made to that page, like to this channel, which can be useful. It's just something to be aware of. Then YouTube will send the full banner image, not just the crop, to your device. That might be useful for a challenge. I also used that to IRL OSINT someone one time. That story is up somewhere on the internet, or I'll just tell it when I turn the camera off. And then you got an about page. It often has email. I believe it turns on email by default, and I think you have to opt out of allowing your email. And then there's the advanced search queries are the exact same as other websites. There's the link for it. Imgur. 2 things about Imgur. It's really mostly a content distribution network, but comments do exist, and you can see all of them on someone's profile. They're all public, and you can see all of them on there. That can often lead to images that like were posted unlisted or private. Which brings up to the more important point. Every single image uploaded to Imgur is public. Even no matter how you set your privacy settings, it's public. So it might not show up on your profile. It might not show up on someone like the front page. It is still public. So if you link it somewhere else and someone finds it, they will see the image. GitHub, commit history exists. Not many people know how to modify it. So it also, fun fact, GitHub shares your email by default. So disable that. You can abuse that by like searching people up. This applies to a lot of websites actually. If you have someone's email, you can do a lot of things with it. So you can search up, you can like try and add people by email on a bunch of different places. So like Snapchat, Telegram, Facebook, all of that. You just plug someone's email in and it'll give you their profile, which is like So creepy, right? Like not great, and that's like on by default. But then like you know, with email, you can also check haveibeenpwned.com to see if there's been breaches. Then just check code for identifying information from GitHub for sure. Actual websites, we're starting to approach like web challenge type stuff, but my favorite one is to always look for, just go to WordPress admin. So if it like looks like a WordPress site, usually they don't block off WordPress admin. Don't be afraid to use inspect element. This is Illinois, not Missouri. Oh, actually, whois and DNS records are important. So like, especially like old DNS records, sometimes there's like outdated DNS records that you can use to try and like go to an old server if it exists. And Gmail, profile pictures can have upscaled and uncropped versions. You can find the original image upload and download it. Like say someone for some weird fucked up reason did like stego in their, oh wow, that's a horrible idea. I should do that. So like someone did stego in like an image and you can't use it just from the cropped version, get the uncropped version. And then a lot of CTF challenges are get the Google ID from the email and then from there, like go to the Google ID page and like look at like where they've been or what places they've reviewed or if they've added photos or something like that. Facebook doesn't like it when I make accounts. So I can never do OSINT for you guys on Facebook because every single time I make a fake Facebook account, they're just like, hey, send us your photo ID if you want to keep this account. Otherwise, we're going to nuke it right now. And I'm just like, okay, bye. It's pretty self-explanatory because Facebook is usually where like real people put their real information. So like, you know, abuse family connections, it puts everything there, birthdays, all of that stuff. Just keep looking. Eventually you're going to find something. Same thing with LinkedIn, because it's a professional website. People tend not to lie. They tend to provide more information than necessary. Like you can go to personal websites and stuff. I'm going to speed this up. Discord, mutual servers feature mutual friends, profile photos, about page. New thing is that they have dedicated server profile pictures. You can open Discord and like inspect out. You can like inspect element Discord. So you can like look at specific profile pictures and resources that are being sent to you, see if they're different. Attachments are public, every single one of them, even if they're on a server no one else has been to. Koylin has a really great set of recon challenges for this. I just don't think they're in our Discord's like server anymore, or I don't think they're in our CTF anymore. If they are, they're private. And then lastly, the IRL stuff. This is like real stalking. So there's too many things to finish, but I'll happily talk about it. Button records, white pages, etc. Cool. I give myself way too much stuff to try and put on here. I need to do more of this later. Okay, I'm gonna pause the share. Okay, cool. Anyone have any questions from Zoom or anyone in the room or just about OSINT in general? And I'd be happy to talk about it. Okay. If not, we can just hang out. 40 minutes, not bad. All right. Does anyone want to run next week's meeting or next weekend's meeting? Because we have slides, but if you want to talk about something, you're welcome to.
Yeah, I think about it, but I don't know.
All right.
I'm thinking about doing that.
Like why? That would be cool. That would be cool. That would be really sick. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording. Have a good one.